Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fanfiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Naruto came to the sight of Uzumaki-sensei duking it out in a vicious kenjutsu fight. Blood was falling from both combatants. Zabuza also had a few burn marks on his body which Naruto imagined came from the katan, Heizukisho, fire release, ash pile burning, jutsu. As he watched the two fight from a distance, Naruto knew that he had to get this right. At the moment, it was currently a one-on-one fight and Zabuza didn't know that Haku was dead. Naruto was currently caught in two minds as he watched the fight. Whilst there was a mission to complete, Naruto also didn't want to go after Gato whilst Uzumaki-sensei was still in danger. Whilst he was confident that his sensei could hold his own as they were both medium to high A-ranked ninjas in the bingo book, Naruto didn't want to lose his sensei. The man was the closest thing he had ever had to a father, and with having lost Ino and Choji to the daimyo's guard for 2 years, that was certainly painful enough. He didn't want to lose Asuma for life. He didn't know what that would do to him psychologically. On the other hand, this was still an S-ranked mission and it meant that it needed to be successful at all costs. Danzo-sensei would certainly be displeased if the mission was not completed. What made Naruto's mind up was the fact that after Zabuza was dead, both he and Asuma could search for Gato together. Naruto was not a censor by any means and wasn't the greatest at tracking general. He knew where his limits were and knew when to turn to others for help. The blonde figured that with his opponent being insanely proficient in the art of the silent kill, he would have honed senses. There was no point trying to be stealthy, so he would have to make an all-out dash. Now, Naruto thought to himself as he sprinted forward, Katan chakra running through his muscles, and prepared a Rasengan in his hand. Admittedly, it wasn't as quick or as powerful as the ones that Jiraiya could make, but ever since learning about the history of the jutsu, Naruto wanted to get more proficient at the jutsu. He wanted to complete it. Sensei! Dodge! Naruto called out at the last possible moment and launched the hand holding the Rasengan in his hand as quickly as possible. Zabuza also heard the same words of Asuma and attempted to dodge the incoming attack. Attempted. Naruto managed to graze the side of Zabuza's abdomen and blood started coming out. It was faster than any cut he had received today. I guess that we're both even now, Zabuza having lost a student, Asuma said with a smirk adorning his face. He had been wanting to say that for a long time so that Zabuza could feel the same pain that he had to suffer through. TCH. That tool was nothing to me. He is of no more use. Nothing more. Whilst he shouldn't be surprised given the man's history, Asuma was shocked and appalled at what he heard. Naruto shared the same opinion of his sensei. Wow, you seriously are cunt of a human being. His last words were how sorry he was for not helping you more as tears were coming down his face. You are fucked. Zabuza grunted. He didn't want to admit to either of these pathetic treefuckers that Naruto's words had struck a nerve in the man. The former mist shinobi was just about to rush forward and slice the two enemy ninjas off. He heard 3 incoming noises. He definitely hoped that these people were not after him. Well, this is definitely unexpected. I never would have expected to find Zabuza-san here. This changes things. The man murmured to himself. Stars lit up in the one of the boy's eyes as shark-like teeth appeared from his mouth. Zabuza-senpai! Suigetsu shouted out in glee. Chojuro was nervous, looking at one of the former members of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. Zabuza was always the second strongest behind Kisame. Ayo, what are you doing here with those two no less? Did the orangutan let you off her leash to come out to the mainland? Zabuza grunted. Ayo frowned. He definitely didn't like the insult thrown his way. Back in my day, Zabuza, you would show your superiors respect. Chojuro meanwhile stammered as he realized who Zabuza meant when he used the word orangutan. Imam-sama. In case you haven't noticed, I haven't been a Kiri shinobi in more than a decade. If you don't have anything important to say, can you kindly get fucked so I can butcher these tree huggers? Zabuza said with a pissed-off expression on his face. It was clear to see that he was never one for authority. Well, unfortunately Zabuza, we can't let you kill that boy right there. Also, Yagura is no longer in charge of Kiri. That definitely made the eyebrows of Zabuza rise, if he had any. What, Shelly ain't in charge anymore? Who is it now then? Chojuro couldn't help but gape in shock when he heard yet another insult being flung. This time it was at their former Kage no less. Yes. Yagura has been killed. Mei Terumi is now our Mizukage as she led the rebels in the defeat of the Yondaime. Against my request, she has informed me that should I ever meet you, you are free to come back to Kirigakure, pardoned of all your outstanding crimes. Ao said with distaste in his mouth. He was very much a stickler for the rules and thought Zabuza should pay for attempting to murder the Mizukage, despite the fact that he was a tyrant who needed be stopped. Wow, Carrot Top is now the Mizukage. And she defeated Yagura. I'm fucked then. What happens if I refuse? The man holding the meat cleaver questioned, weighing up his options. Damn. Mei must have gotten real strong if she managed to take down Yagura. She's changed from when I last saw her. We will be forced to reclaim back the Kobakira Bocho. That would normally not be a threat to Zabuza, but given the state he was in and also that he had two enemies with one having just taken down Haku. Well, it seems like I don't have any choice in the matter now, do I? Naruto. We have to retreat. We will not be able to take these three new shinobi as well as Zabuza. Asuma called out to his student who nodded. The two Konoha ninjas looked at one another and nodded. Both of them immediately went through hand seals. Ao noticed this and immediately sprinted forward, hoping to stop them before their jutsu could take effect. He had seen the blood on the outfits of both Asuma and Naruto and made a judgment call. Katan, Heizukisho, fire release, ash pile burning, the two called out as the cloud of ash left their lungs and entered the air. They immediately blew it upright when Ao started to dart back, but it was too late for the veteran shinobi. The cloud exploded in flames, burning anything that was touching it. Ao wasn't, but he was close to it. Searing flames jutted out at Ao and everything was free game. Luckily for the man, most of his body was covered in thick clothing which prevented his skin from taking the heat immediately. His face was not so lucky. The flames hit the man's face and the intense heat caused blisters the moment that they came in contact. The eye patch that he was wearing that protected his Byakugan wasn't the most flame resistant and damage was done to the eye below. Quickly, Ao got rid of the eye patch and used a water jutsu to put out the rest of the flames on his body. When that was done, he ordered Chojuro to come over and use the little medical ninjutsu that he knew. Damn! The area is saturated with chakra from the smog they still left up. I can't get a good read on them. We still have orders to follow from the Mizukage. We will locate Raiga and reclaim the lightning fangs. Ao said with distaste. He did not like losing, but he knew he had a mission to complete which was more important to their economy and future. XXX. Naruto and Asuma were panting as they rushed through the wave countryside, back to where Inoichi was. Since he was the censor, he was their best chance at making out of this place alive. The fact that he was also a jonin helped out immensely. 5 minutes after their little run-in with the Mist Shinobi, Naruto and Asuma had made it to Inoichi's location. They quickly met up with the man and briefed him on what was happening. Right. The man said before appearing to concentrate for a few moments. I can feel where the fight was, you two deposited a fair amount of chakra. We are northeast from that location and they are headed southwest towards Fire Country. I believe that they have another mission or they don't think it is feasible to chase after you. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Unfortunately, I didn't get to secure the body of the Hayaton user to bring back to Konoha for testing. Also, it is safe to believe that Gato is still out there because neither of us confirmed the kill. Naruto commented, which Asuma nodded in regards to the Gato front. Whilst it is part of our mission to kill the man, he is not the primary objective. Our primary objective was inserting Tazuna as the daimyo of Wave Country and use this as a military leverage point. With the bridge being built and Tazuna becoming the daimyo, he can force Gato out of the country, and that can be done through the purchase of a mission. Gato will know that Konoha is after his life so that he won't show up here or in Fire Country if he knows what is good for him. So what's the plan now, Inoichi-senpai? Naruto questioned to the man who was his former teammate's father. We will stay low. The town doesn't need to know we are here. Once we can confirm that the Mist Shinobi have left the island, which I will be able to do, we will then eliminate all of the bandits in the area. Finally, we will help Tazuna and his government seize control of all of Gato's assets here and return them to the country. Finally, when that is all done, we will await the other squad coming from Konoha. They will be responsible for guarding the daimyo and his people, as well as setting up a military base here to protect the people. The team, I believe, is 1 Jonin, 2 Chunin, and 3 Genin. Inoichi stated, to which Naruto nodded. XXX. On the other side of the elemental nations, both Ino and Choji were coming back from their mission just south of Land of Earth border with Land of Grass. Both were tired but relieved as they had successfully completed their escort mission of controversial documents that needed to be secure. They had encountered enemy ninjas, but it wasn't something that they couldn't handle. Choji was especially pleased with how the mission went as he got to field test the new jutsu he had been working on over the past month, and it worked successfully. Looking at her teammate, Ino was definitely impressed with the amount of growth she had seen in her teammate. Choji had grown a fair amount, hitting his growth spurt pretty much straight after arriving in the capital of Fire Country. This was combined with the realization that he used the token Ikimichi excuse that his fat powered his jutsus. Whilst it was definitely true that the extra fat on the body did help use the jutsu, it was exaggerated. Choji came to the conclusion that he was using the excuse as a reason to not look after his weight. The Chunin started taking more care of his diet to not eat what he didn't need, and with the combination of this and his growth spurt, Choji's physique had changed quite significantly. He no longer had a gut and man boobs. He instead had a thin layer of fat covering his body, which showed that he had serious muscle underneath for his age. He wasn't bulky and he wasn't ripped. He was the same size as Naruto, just bigger proportionally. This increase in muscle, thanks to the change in diet and training, allowed the boy to maintain his strength but drastically increase the speed he was able to move at. In addition to this, he had also gotten rid of the underwear, bandana, on top of his head and also discarded the scarf. Now that he didn't have the double chin, he had no need to wear the scarf. It wasn't just his taijutsu that had improved significantly. His ninjutsu repertoire had also increased. His proficiency with Doton manipulation had increased, where he now had completed the first stage of nature transformation proficiency. With that completed, Choji was able to now experiment. Ever since he had seen Naruto talking about combining his bloodline with his element, Choji wanted to try it for himself. Naruto's jutsus had changed for the better into new and improved jutsus, and he hoped that the same thing would happen to his own. The very proof was in the jutsu that he had used to finish off the enemy of their most recent mission. As Ino looked at Choji with admiration, she didn't realize that he was looking at with that same admiration. Her skills had improved quite substantially over the 3 months, and that was not progressing at all in her family techniques. Because her clan techniques involved the brain, she had to be supervised by an experienced member of the clan before she could learn the techniques. There was no room for error whatsoever, as it could do untold damage to one's psyche. This forced Ino to have to branch out. Thanks to the resources available at the palace, Ino did not have a shortage of material to train in. The blonde knew that she was never going to be a taijutsu monster like Naruto, or to a lesser extent Choji. This meant that she would have to come up with some other way to win fights, as the majority of them were fought in the close to mid-range zones. Thus entered her new best friend, her wakizashi blade. It suited her in that it kept shinobi far enough away that they couldn't engage in taijutsu, but also wasn't as long and as heavy as a katana. Every morning, Ino would go through her katas as she tried to get as proficient as possible with the blade. Thanks to the numerous samurai on offer, it allowed to get a good teacher each and every morning and the group training facility. Having decided almost immediately that she was going to wield the blade with one hand, Ino worked on her ninjutsu and chakra control, wanting it to get to the point where she could use one-handed seals. That would make her a lot more combat ready. She already had an idea in mind of combining her kenjutsu with genjutsu to distract her opponents and then use her blade to finish them off. It was in the beginning stages, but she could see a future with it. In addition to this, Ino had been drastically increasing the amount of physical conditioning she was doing each day. She was getting fitter day by day and could now keep up with some of the more experienced members of the Guardian Ninjas. That wasn't even the best bit. The best bit was that because of all the hard work she was putting into diet and exercise, she looked and felt the best she ever had, her clothes fit her better, and as far as she was concerned, she was growing in all the right places, not any extra. Another thing that Ino realized about herself and was trying to remedy was her chakra efficiency. She was trying to make her reserves as large as possible since they were pitiful. In addition to this, she was trying to get even more efficient using the chakra that she already had. Her reserves were upper genin level, but her chakra control was jonin level already. She didn't know how she was going to use this to her advantage, but she had heard that Tsunade-sama increased her strength thanks to insanely good chakra control. Maybe she could do something similar, like increase her speed? You were manipulating the same muscles, just slightly different. I wonder how Naruto was doing. Ino questioned, which broke Choji out of his trance. Normally, she would think that the person was staring at her body, but with Choji, it was different. He was her brother in everything but blood. I dunno, Ino-chan. I bet he is improving just like us and going on missions collecting those paychecks. Those milk cartons have his face on them, so I am sure he is getting paid a pretty penny, which should make him happy. Choji stated. He couldn't hate on his friend? He didn't come from the underprivileged background that Naruto did, so he couldn't judge his friend despite thinking his money obsessions was a slight bit unhealthy. Maybe when we get back to Konoha, he can shout us dinner at the most expensive restaurant with all that money he is lying around. Ino grumbled. It was clear to Choji that she was still sore about the way that the team broke up 3 months ago. He was too, but he didn't think that throwing their ex-teammate's name around like that would help bring the team back together when they met up again. True, but I think we could have told him beforehand that we got the offer. Maybe then the outcome would have been different. Choji stated, trying to be the peacemaker. If we told him, then his answer would have changed. At least this way, we know what his true feelings were. I mean, I never would have thought that Naruto would have turned down money for friends. I guess you were right in that we could have handled things better that day. Ino replied with a sigh. Hey, look on the bright side, Ino. She looked at Choji weirdly, urging him to continue. I am sure that there are things about how we left that he regrets. In fact, I bet that when we meet up again, it will be awkward at first, but we will go back to being good friends. I wished I shared that same enthusiasm. Ino wistfully sighed. They had a long time until they returned home. They had completed 3 months of their 2-year commitment, and the Yamanaka would be lying to herself if she hadn't been thinking of the decision to leave Konoha every night she had been here. XXX. Naruto awoke to a knock at the door. Curious as to whom it was, the blonde-haired boy quickly got changed and walked over to the door. He at least wanted to be presentable in case it was a mission. Oh, it's just you. Affronted, Jiraiya responded back. Oi midget, what's that supposed to mean? The man said with a scowl on his face. It didn't reach his eyes though. I quickly had to get dressed in case it was someone saying that I had a mission ready for me. Then I found out that it was only you. You're looking at a S-rank ninja kid, you should count your lucky stars that one is interested in you. Jiraiya gruffly stated. Well sure, you might have that title in the bingo book, but you haven't yet shown me anything above a B-rank ninja at best. Naruto replied, not wanting to make the man's ego any bigger than it was. Is that a challenge I am hearing? I am going to take that as a challenge. Just like my self-appointed mission to make you a pervert. No. No. I want to be cool like Asuma-sensei, not you. Naruto was backpedaling. He knew what Jiraiya's reputation was like and he didn't want a part of it. You think the little shit flinger is cool? TCH, a gaki like you could learn more than a few things from a man of wisdom like me. Jiraiya said with a grin on his face as he came and sat down on the only seat in Naruto's tiny apartment. Coming from someone whose face looks a little rapey, I think I will take my chances. So is there anything I can get you, water? Naruto replied with a grin. He's got the quick thinking of Minato and the sass of Kushina. I'm sure you guys would be proud of him. Just water, thanks. We have a few things we need to talk about. Some of which you probably already know. Hearing the seriousness and way that Jiraiya was speaking, Naruto had a rough idea where the next conversation was going to go. The blonde gave Jiraiya a glass and held onto his own as he sat at the table chair. So what is it that you want to speak to me about? Kakashi told me that he told you about your ancestry. Naruto, I just wanted to say first and foremost that they would both be proud who you have become. Jiraiya earnestly stated, which made Naruto a little bit uncomfortable. He hadn't seen the man act like this before and it was a little weird. Thank you. Naruto thought for a moment, wondering whether or not to be blunt or dance around the truth. In the end he decided that the best way to get answers was by being direct. What I want to know though, is from what Kakashi was telling me, you were very close to my father. How come I never met you until after the Chunin exams? Jiraiya hung his head in shame. Most of it is my fault, but some of it is the blame of Sarutobi-sensei. After the death of your father, someone who I viewed as a son, I drowned my sorrows in drugs, prostitutes and alcohol. It took me 5 years to get over everything that happened. As I was doing this, I was also running counterintelligence as Konoha had been hit hard by the Kyuubi attack and couldn't appear weak or the third shinobi war would restart all over again. Jiraiya shook his head. The truth of the matter was I wasn't in a fit state to raise you mentally and emotionally and left you in the hands of Sarutobi-sensei, hoping that you would get better care than what you would have done if you were with me. In all honesty, Naruto couldn't fault Jiraiya for becoming depressed with the death of his son, but that still didn't justify the man from running away from his problems. Jiraiya saw this look and spoke up once more. One thing you will quickly realize, the more time you spend being a ninja, is that no one is perfect, especially not the ones that get idolized. Naruto frowned. That explains the first 5 years of my life, but what about the rest? Why didn't you visit me then? I don't want to blame others, but Sarutobi-sensei forbade me for visiting you. With you looking like a carbon copy of your father and hanging around me, it would have made the Konoha populace start to question your origins, which was something that we couldn't have come out to the public. At the time, you weren't strong enough to be able to defend yourself against half of IWA, which will be breathing down your neck for the rest of your life. Naruto could definitely see his point. After what happened in Wave Country with the Mist Village wanting to kidnap him, he knew the threat of assassins was very real. I can see why you guys did it, but it doesn't seem fair for some reason. No, it isn't. I think that Sarutobi-sensei also forbade me from visiting you because he was salty at Minato. Why would he be like that? Naruto questioned, not sure what he was missing. Jiraiya took a sip from the glass. Well, now that sensei is dead, I think it is okay if I break a few S-class secrets. Naruto's eyes widened in shock when he heard this. He repositioned himself on the edge of his seat, eager to hear what the Toad Sage had to say. Your mother Naruto was the previous Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. I believe this combined with the DNA of the Yondaime was enough to produce the bloodline in you, or at least, that is the best conclusion I have come to. See, your father's ancestors originated from the Mist Village. How does this affect the Sandaime disliking me by proxy? Well, a Jinchuriki's seal is weakest at birth. Jiraiya noticed the look of horror that overtook Naruto's face and quickly acted it upon it. Don't worry. Minato was a seal master, so nothing bad would have happened. Then what happened that night? Naruto asked Jiraiya. The fact that he was being given just weren't adding up. Jiraiya paused for a minute. That's the question I have been asking myself for the past 1.5 decades. Not a day goes by where I don't lose sleep on thinking about that night. Someone must have interfered with the process and forced the Kyuubi to come out of the seal. From there, your father made a choice when it came to who the new Kyuubi Jinchuriki was going to be. He had a choice of making you it or making Konohamaru it. I believe that Minato made the choice to seal it into Konohamaru as he thought that with the support network available, he would have better chance at not getting treated badly, unlike you who would be an orphan. Yeah, I've seen the occasional looks and whispers that he gets. I can imagine if they were a lot more frequent and vocal about it directed at me, it would have been hard to not get angry about it. That's my opinion on it as well. Sarutobi didn't share that opinion though. Both Kushina and Minato made me your godfather, and I would have loved to be there more for you when you were younger. Jiraiya freely admitted. Naruto could see the raw emotion in the eyes of the man in front of him. He wasn't sure what to say. Admittedly, Naruto still had some negative feelings, but he could see that Jiraiya was honest when it came to his flaws and could see the man was trying to repair the situation. Well, there's no use crying about the past because it doesn't help anyone and only makes us shittier people. You owe me though. The grin on the face of Jiraiya couldn't have been any bigger. Thanks Naruto, you don't know how much that means to an old man me. Jiraiya said with a small smile. Naruto wasn't sure, but it almost looked as if he was going to leak a few tears. A moment later, Jiraiya sprung out of his chair. Now we got all that sappy shit out of the way, we get to do the fun stuff. Come with me kid and I will show you something pretty amazing. Jiraiya said before placing his hand on Naruto's shoulder and then vanishing in a cloud of leaves. XXX. Naruto and Jiraiya arrived at an desolate place, that medium-sized hedge surrounding the land. What's this place? Naruto asked with curiosity. This place is the Uzumaki compound. Originally, you were going to be told when you made Jonin or turned 18, whichever came first, but now with there being no Hokage to enforce the rules, I thought I might show you this. My clan, it has a compound? Naruto asked in bewilderment. Everything that he had read pointed towards there being no clan compound. Well, not until recently they didn't, but I kind of did my magic. Jiraiya replied with a smirk on his face. What did you do? The blonde questioned with a little bit of fear. Well, you know how I am super rich, right? When he saw that Naruto nodded, he continued on. Well, I am not as rich as I once was. The gears turned inside the mind of Naruto, only coming to one conclusion. You bought the land here? But this is in a good area, and how much did you buy? This would have costed a small fortune. I bought 10 acres. Naruto's eyes nearly bugged out of their head. How did you manage to do that? Surely this land would have already been on sale since it's in a good area. Jiraiya couldn't keep the smirk off of his face. Well, this was previously part of some other clan compound, but they sold it to me when I gave them an offer that was too good to turn down. With Naruto looking at him expectingly, he continued on. After the Chunin exams, I went to Tsunade, my former teammate, and bought a third of the land of the Senju. She agreed to it since she's massively in debt and her clan is virtually extinct anyway. As far as she was concerned, it was a win-win scenario for her. You mean? Naruto questioned, struggling to believe what he thought he had just heard. Jiraiya nodded. Yagaki, think of this as a belated birthday present for all the years that have gone by. Hopefully this repairs some of the damage. Wow, thanks Kyofu. Naruto mumbled as he stared at the land in front of him. Can we have a look inside? Sure thing Naruto. Just follow me. Jiraiya said as he gave Naruto a tour of the new Uzumaki clan grounds. Naruto took particular interest in the temple that had been laid to ruin, especially when Jiraiya stated that this was the location that he was going to be born in if everything went to plan that night. Immediately, as he was processing all of this information, Naruto had an idea forming in his head. He knew what he wanted to do with the money that he was earning. He wanted to restore the temple to its former glory. In addition to this, Naruto wanted to redesign the gardens that had been trampled on the Kyuubi long ago. He could still see the damage that had been done, which no one had bothered to clean up. It would take a long time, but it was something he was keen to do. If only Ino was around. She would have loved to have had a hand in designing all of the gardens. XXX. Gato was furious. He had lost a lot of money. He lost $3 million in the space of 5 minutes, lost control over his company and got kicked out of a country which was making so much money for him. All of this, as far as he was concerned, was because of shinobi villages. He may be a coward, but he was a smart man. He had learned his lesson in not dealing with shinobi villages head-on. He had also learnt that there was more to life than money. He was going to take his time and survey his options, but Gato was hooked. Messing around with shinobi was something that he was not going to give up on. The idea of having a village backing him definitely sounded good. Man, this essay is no joke. Naruto mumbled to himself at the table in his apartment. He had already written 6 pages of his essay that he had to deliver to the governing council of Konoha in regards how Konoha could be improved. He had been given a time frame of 3 weeks to write it, and he hoped that it was good enough. The race to become the Hokage of Konoha was not lost on Naruto, and he had admitted privately to himself that the position was something that was too good of an opportunity to pass up on. He was confident that he had the writing edge over Konohamaru when it came to the essay, but he had no idea what sort of skill that Sasuke Uchiha had. From his dealings with the boy, Naruto was pretty confident that Sasuke didn't have as much of an interest in the title of Hokage as what either he or Konohamaru did. As far as he was concerned, it was a nice bonus. It wasn't necessary, however. Naruto hoped that all of this meant that he would be in the driver's seat when it came to the judging of the essays. He had written 5,000 words already on it and hoped it would be decent enough. Might as well go and get some chocolate milk, I deserve a lot after all this. Ever since his bank account had increased, so had his addiction to chocolate milk. XXX. So what are we doing today, sensei? Naruto questioned, eager to improve himself as a shinobi. Sure, he was mid to high chunin in skill already despite having only been a chunin for 4 months, but he wasn't satisfied. He wanted to be at the top of the food chain. Well, I thought I might start showing you advanced katan manipulation. Had Naruto spent more time around Jiraiya, he would have known to fear the smirk on the man's face. He didn't, and thus, he was in blissful ignorance. Sweet. So what do I have to do for that? Well, all you have to do is follow me. The Toad Sannin stated as he walked off, Naruto following him. XXX. I'm gonna kill that fucking pervert when it get out of this place. Naruto raged internally as he struggled to overcome his predicament. Naruto was standing in a freezer in only his undies. Apparently, this was some form of fucked up training method that the Sannin had gone through when he was younger. Naruto liked to think that it was bullshit. There was no way someone willingly subjected themselves to this. His goal was to cook a piece of meat, any of the ones on offer, to a high quality. It had to be medium rare. The butcher of the place that he was in would be the taste tester, and until it reached his standards, Naruto was allowed to say that he had completed his training. The grins on the face of Jiraiya and the butcher in question made Naruto want to go on a murder spree. The idea of cooking food with fire manipulation was nothing new to Naruto, but circumstances that he was doing it in was. Since he was in very little clothing, he had to devote so much focus to warming himself up with his elemental chakra, instead of doing what he had been tasked to do. He was not even doing that well, as all of his toes were now blue and his fingers were going that way. I've only got to last 10 more minutes of this hell. Come on, Naruto. Focus. The boy chanted to himself as he tried to not die of hypothermia. I wonder if I create an external skeleton around me, would it protect me from the fucking cold? Naruto wondered, and in the end he decided, it couldn't be any worse than what he was feeling now, so he might as well try it. Molding his chakra, Naruto allowed many bones to come out of his skin. When he had his normal bone armor up, Naruto decided to up it once more. He tried to connect all of the bones to one another to create essentially a second skin of bone. The control required to do this was immense, and multitasking too was really eating up his focus. How do people do this sort of stuff? Naruto wondered in shock, as what he was doing was definitely not easy. He was past the point where he couldn't feel his hands as they were blew up until his wrist and ankles. 5 minutes later and the door opened. Naruto was fading and was not in a state where he noticed who it was. I guess that someone is here to save me. With that last thought, Naruto dropped to the ground, out cold. Jiraiya rushed into the room and picked the boy up off the cold, concrete floor, fire chakra already flooding his hands to warm Naruto up. He knew that he could heat up Naruto quickly and return him to normal, and along with the small camera in the freezer, there was no real trouble. Not that Naruto knew that, of course. The problem came when Jiraiya started channeling Katan chakra into Naruto and to warm him up, but there was no response. His skin was staying as pale as ever with tinges of blue. Shit. It must be that bone armor thing he has on. The quick-thinking Jiraiya said out loud before forming a Rasengan in his hand and slamming it into the bone in Naruto's arm. The bone resisted it and Jiraiya gritted his teeth, changing the normal Rasengan into an Odama Rasengan. 5 seconds later and part of the bone chipped off, freeing half of Naruto's forearm. Jiraiya immediately cancelled the Rasengan and instantly channeled Katan chakra to heat the boy up. Color returned in almost an instant. Blood flushed through the body of Naruto, allowing his limbs to get feeling and slowly go from blue to their normal color. Jiraiya noticed that there was twitching beneath his hand. Looking up, he noticed that Naruto was slowly starting to wake up. What happened? Naruto questioned as he slowly regained consciousness. Don't move. Jiraiya ordered in a serious tone of voice for once. Naruto's response was to start shivering. Now that he was awake, he registered just how cold his body was. His hands and feet hurt so much and he couldn't even feel his toes. Get rid of that bone armor. When he heard this command, Naruto didn't hesitate and started molding chakra. He found it harder than normal since he was shivering. It ruined his concentration. Slowly but surely, the bone armor regressed from covering his entire body to normal to nothing. The second that his hands and feet weren't covered, Jiraiya moved his hands so that the fire chakra would warm up the more in need parts of Naruto's body. It was at this point that Naruto realized what it was that had happened and how he got into the mess. Why the fuck did you put me in that freezer with no clothes and locking the door? Are you crazy? Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Oh come on, there was no real danger, I could instantly heat you up like just now. Think of it as character building. I think I should keep secret the fact that when I did this, I started in a jumper and pants. Character building my ass. After all of this is done, you owe me a pool filled with chocolate milk, you stupid pervert. Naruto grumbled to himself, slowly regaining feeling in his fingers and toes, only for it to be the fact that he could feel that they were frozen. You wish, you little shit. After the amount of money I dropped on you a few months ago, you aren't getting any presents anytime soon. Jiraiya said, but a grin was on his face before it got thoughtful look on it. You know, that bone armor that you had that covered your body was hard to break down. It even held up against a Rasengan. Now this had Naruto's attention. Really, I knew it was strong, but I didn't know it was that strong. Yeah, I mean, you might want to think of working that full body skeleton into a jutsu of some kind. With you being a taijutsu monster, this could make you even stronger. Naruto was thoughtful for a moment. Also, when I had that armor up, it insulated me from the cold better than what my skin did. I wonder how it would go about protecting me from heat and then by proxy, fire-based attacks. Naruto questioned to his sensei. It's worth a shot, I guess. I mean, if it can block me from all basic elemental attacks and even the Rasengan, then that is definitely something that I should practice on. Alright Gaki, well I guess that you have a few things to work on. How about we go out for lunch, my treat? Sure. Naruto said with enthusiasm. There was a smile on his face, but his mind wasn't with it. He was already too busy thinking about the possibilities of this new discovery and how he could turn it into a jutsu. XXX. Right, so I will be leading this mission. Does anyone have any questions on this? Naruto questioned, although he hoped that it was a rhetorical question. He didn't want to have anyone question his authority. Yeah, I still don't see why you're in charge. I mean, I proctored the most recent exam and you were in that. Anko said with a frown. She didn't like the idea of being bossed around by someone who was younger than herself. Especially when said person was also a lower rank. Ma, play nice Anko-san. Naruto-kun here is in charge as it will be a good learning opportunity. Technically I am in charge, but I am only going to override Naruto if he requests that I do. Kakashi said, hoping that it placated the snake charmer. A few of the other Jonin and Chunin on this mission voiced their disapproval at being led by someone who was still only 14 years old. Naruto steeled himself. He knew to expect this. Danzo-sensei had told him to expect this, but he didn't like hearing it. No, I suppose she is right to voice her concerns. She is a ninja and she is risking her life for the completion of the mission. Naruto replied, which made a smirk appear on the face of Anko. I will just have to let the mission speak for itself. Naruto replied, which made a few people's respect for him increase. That and the fact that I have 100% mission record despite having been on multiple S-ranked missions is more than a lot of people can say. Naruto finished, letting it hang in the air. Kakashi internally face-palmed. He could see that what Naruto was doing was having an effect on his co-workers for this mission. He could have easily done without that final line. That essentially brought him back to square one with their respect. XXX. I suppose you didn't do too bad, brat. Anko said in passing as Naruto headed off in a different direction to her. My ass, I didn't do too bad. I did good and you know it, you were just not willing to say it. Naruto grumbled to himself as he walked to the Hokage's tower. He had a mission report to fill out and he also had to be debriefed. Naruto, I see that you have come back from your mission. I trust that it was a success? Danzo questioned when he saw his most recent student. He judged that everything went off without a hitch as Naruto didn't have a scratch on him. Yes, everything went fine, Danzo-sama. I did not need Kakashi to take over, but I did ask him for guidance on a few occasions. Naruto replied. It was the first time he had been on a mission of this scope whilst being the team leader. It was a high A-ranked mission towards the land of grass border. He knew that Danzo-sensei and the rest were counting on him to lead the mission successfully. He panicked once. After that minor blimp, Naruto successfully completed the rest of the mission without any trouble. That is good to hear. Far too many ninjas become overconfident and believe that they have the answer to everything. A good ninja is a powerful ninja, but a great ninja is someone who realizes the strengths and weaknesses of his squad and delegates the parameters so that everyone is playing to their strengths. Naruto definitely agreed. Whilst he did not consider himself a genius like Itachi and the others before him, there were some areas that he felt that he was quite good in. The first one was being able to plan. He was able to plan well so that there was a much smaller chance of anything surprising popping up. The second was that he was good at making sure those plans came to fruition. He was good at multitasking and managing his time effectively. He knew when to go to others for help to complete the task as effectively as possible. To be honest, he thought of himself as the best possible candidate for the position of Hokage when the other two choices were Konohamaru and Sasuke. Konohamaru was too childish for the position despite having the potential to be on the level you needed to be. Sasuke on the other hand was too self-centered. Whilst it was fine for a normal shinobi, the role of the Hokage was a different beast altogether. Whilst he knew that he was not perfect and there would be quite a few testing times ahead, Naruto was confident that he would do the best job out of the three. Would you like to help me with these reports? Danzo questioned, breaking Naruto out of his musings. Not particularly, but I think that you already know that. This must be some kind of test. No one would willingly do this in their own free time. I guess I might as well bite the kunai. Sure, I didn't have any plans anyway. Naruto tried to say with a convincing facial expression. He didn't. Danzo gave off the smallest of smirks. He is better than Konohamaru and Sasuke. Both of those Chunin decided that they had more important things to do. I was right in using the Sharingan on the daimyo to agree to the proposal for the new Hokage. He could already tell that after the past 4 months as the interim Hokage, Danzo knew the role had to be in the hands of someone much younger. It was draining. It wasn't physically draining, it was mentally draining. Sure, he could handle it, but looking back on it now that he was actually in the position, the idea of the Hokage had been built up over time, and Danzo realized that he didn't like it as much as he thought he would. He had built up the image of the Hokage in his mind after decades of pining for it, only to have it now, and it didn't live up to his expectations, not by a long shot. He had to wonder just how Hiruzen put up with it for so long. Danzo had now come to the conclusion that he much preferred to not be underneath the spotlight. He was not that type of person, he privately admitted to himself. It was more for people like his most recent student Naruto. He has come along nicely, but he still has a long way to go if Konoha is going to reclaim its position as the strongest village. The shinobi training was the easy part, now he has to become a politician. XXX. That armor of yours is pretty good, but there are a few flaws with it. Jiraiya commented, which Naruto agreed with. Yeah, I can hardly move my joints at all. The blonde Chunin said with annoyance. He had just figured out a new potential trump card jutsu, and now he had realized that he couldn't fight with it. Surely you can just stop using creating the bones around your joints to give you most of your flexibility back, right? It would be better to have that defense and have parts of it missing than to not have it at all. Jiraiya mused. Naruto nodded. Yeah, but that doesn't help the fact that I am not as fast as what I am without it. You even said so yourself. Without the armor, I am a low jonin in speed, with the only person my age close to me is Lee. He probably would be better if he never got injured by Gaara. Jiraiya could see where Naruto was coming from. His speed was one of his best assets when combined with his bloodline. The armor that Naruto had created, though, Jiraiya saw a lot of potential in it and didn't want Naruto to not realize it. True, but you have to think, you've only just turned 15. You are much quicker than what I was at your age. Your speed will naturally develop as you get older and put more time into training your body. That armor of yours, though, that can help you become a true powerhouse. The type of ninja that can become a Kage. Naruto was shocked. Really, you think it is that good? Naruto questioned. He knew the jutsu was good, but he didn't think it was that good. You're not looking at the bigger picture, Naruto. Think, if you can combine smaller bits of bone with your element, just imagine what you could do when you combine your element with the armor? Jiraiya questioned as he saw Naruto's eyes widen. We have worked out that it can take the brunt of any B-ranked attack and below, so by theory, you could cover yourself in a B-ranked fire ninjutsu, and because of the armor, you wouldn't feel a thing. Outside of something like Guy using negates or the Yandame Reikage using his lightning armor, it would render all taijutsu and kenjutsu-based attacks useless in theory. This was something that Naruto hadn't thought of, but it only made him grin. The teenager inside of him was grinning at the thought. The potential new jutsu he could make sounded insanely awesome. He was incredibly glad his element was fire, 'cause it was the coolest of the lot. With lunch having just finished, Naruto got back up from his seat and created the bone armor covering his entire body. Over the past 2 weeks with Jiraiya, Naruto had gotten it down to only 5 seconds from the 5 minutes it previously took to apply the armor. That still wasn't good enough in the eyes of the Toad Sannin. Doing what his sensei had said, Naruto created the majority of the armor but left the joints free from bone marrow. The boy tested out his range of motion and quickly realized that he had about 75% the amount of flexibility that he had without the suit. With a curious expression on his face, Naruto channeled enough fire chakra to cover his entire hand in a small flame. It wasn't as hot as the one that he used to in combination with his bloodline during the fight with Gaara, but it didn't need to be. There was no need for Naruto to focus that much fire to one point during training. His goal was to build strength, not test it. Flames covered his hand from his wrist down, but the blonde wasn't satisfied with that. Ever since Jiraiya had implanted the idea of having what was essentially a suit of fire covering whilst inside his bone armor, he wanted to find out if it would work out in the field. More importantly, he wanted to find out how cool it looked. XXX. Unaware of how their former teammate was training, Choji and Ino both attended the summons of the Fire Lord. They didn't know what their next mission was going to be, but they were ready. My lord, how can we be of service? Ino questioned as she bowed down to one of the most powerful men in the country. She had just gotten comfortable with the man who was her boss and being able to speak to him on a first-name basis. When a mission came up, however, she spoke professionally. "Ino-chan, how many times have I told you not to call me that?" The man pouted in mock sadness. The blonde bombshell backtracked and stammered in her response. "I'm sorry, Akira-sama, it's just ingrained in us at a young age to call someone of your position by your title," Choji replied, covering for his sister from another mister. "I know that, Choji, but the reason why I offered the position to you two along with young Naruto-kun is because you three aren't simple yes men as you proved during my stay during the Chunin exams." The mention of Naruto brought a slight change in the facial expressions of the two ninja. Their teammate was a sore subject for them. Either unconcerned or unaware, Akira continued on. "I am surrounded by many people looking to make a quick Rio or who live in fear of my power that they advise me on making bad decisions. Whilst I myself don't know much about what makes a shinobi good, the people that watched your performances during the Chunin exams vouched for you. I hired you not for your abilities but for your personalities and potential." This was not something that Ino hadn't already theorized. Compared to the other guardian ninjas here, both she and Choji were a fair bit behind the standard. They had improved a lot over the past 5 months and caught and were only slightly behind the other members. "You have improved immensely over the past 5 months and I have personally seen the amount of effort that you two have put in. Something which I am sure that Naruto Uzumaki will be very happy to see." The respective clan heirs' heads shot up when they heard this. "What do you mean?" Ino questioned with a hint of a grin on her face. She didn't want to celebrate too soon, but it seemed as if she would get to see her former teammate shortly. "I will be going to Konoha in a fortnight for about a week and you will be two of the guards accompanying me. You will be given time off to see your families and friends." The blonde-haired girl grinned like a madman. Not only did she get to see Naruto who she wanted to patch things up with, but she also got to see the family that she had been missing for quite a while. The feelings of homesickness had already started hitting the woman hard. "I wonder how much Naruto-kun has changed. I mean, he was kind of cute back then and he at least validated my appearance. I bet he has put on a bit of muscle." Ino internally giggled. One of the things that had happened when she was over in the capital was that she no longer was infatuated with Sasuke Uchiha. Sure, he was physically attractive but his personality was his best form of contraception as far as she was concerned. She wasn't like Sakura in that she would base her life around boys. Boys were stupid. During the time that she had spent at the capital, she had seen so many women whose life dream was to look pretty and get pregnant to some rich man. She was disgusted by it. It was demeaning to hard-working women and was a terrible thing to teach young women. Part of the reason was because she saw herself going down that path when she in the academy, what with her fascination on Sasuke and all that. She wanted her life to have more meaning than being the trophy wench of some man. The platinum blonde wanted so much more than that. With her mind no longer being fixated on Sasuke, it meant that there were far more options out there but none sparked her interest quite like Naruto did. He was smart, determined, kind, had a vision and he was easy on the eyes. The two main things that Ino liked about him though was that he wasn't the type of person who would let her walk all over him. She immediately lost respect for people who didn't respect themselves. If she screwed up, he would no doubt be the first to tell her that she had fucked up. He was also mature. Well, compared to all of the other boys around her age. It was only a year difference, but for teenagers, it was everything. She couldn't wait to be back home. XXX. Tears were falling. She was grateful that she was in the privacy of her own bedroom. This was something that no one was allowed to see. No one, especially not those she cared about such as her parents and Sasuke. Definitely not Sasuke-kun, as he was the one who had caused the tears to appear in the first place. Sakura was actually surprised she managed to hold on for as long as she did without showing the world how absolutely crushed she was when her Sasuke-kun called her pathetic and useless. The second that the team meeting was over, for the first time, Sakura didn't ask the Uchiha clan heir for a date. The young girl instead sprinted home, faster than she ever had at training, and dropped to her bed and started crying her eyes out. She knew that both Sasuke and Konohamaru were better than her. It was obvious by the fact that both of them received promotions to the rank of Chunin whilst she did not. She wasn't burned by it all that much. Both Sasuke and Konohamaru came from two of Konoha's best clans and they were boys. It was the amount that they were ahead that bothered the genin. With the invasion having just happened, Konoha needed all of its manpower. They couldn't keep Team 7 together, which was what she wanted. She loved being a part of Team 7. When they did meet up though, it wasn't the same as Sakura remembered it. She quickly found out that she was the limiting factor on the team. It didn't matter how good the teamwork that Kakashi had drilled into them was, her individual ninja abilities were so far below Konohamaru and Sasuke's that the team was forced to only do C-rank missions. With the two boys having tested themselves on A-ranked missions in the past, they saw C-rank missions as a step down and weren't all that happy about it. They never voiced their frustrations directly on her, but it had been indirectly said once or twice. It made her feel like crap and she didn't want to hear it, but there was a nagging thought in the back of her mind that they were right. She was weak. She was woefully weak. Even Ino is much stronger than me now. She even got promoted to Chunin and is now one of the daimyo's guard. Whilst there was the thought that she had gotten the position because she was a clan heir and her sensei was one of the former guards, Sakura assumed that her rival in love had to be good to get the chance. All of the people that she had thought she was equal to during the academy now seemed like they were a million miles in front of her. She was lagging behind badly. She was the injured hind leg that the dog had to drag along the ground. Sasuke said I was weak, pathetic, and useless. That I had never contributed anything to any mission ever. If he realizes just how much Ino has improved and is a good ninja, then I will have no chance in winning his heart. I have to do something about this. I have to become a stronger ninja, for Sasuke's sake. Piggy won't stand a chance when I am done training. Sitting in what was formerly land of the Senju compound was a blonde-haired teenager. Naruto Uzumaki couldn't help but marvel at everything around him. When Jiraiya mentioned that he bought 10 acres off of pristine land off of the Senju clan, he did not expect to find a temple on the land. Despite the ruined state it was in, all of the masks inside that Naruto had come to learn about were still perfectly intact. As far as Naruto was concerned, that was all that mattered, as buildings could easily be replaced but the heirlooms of the nearly extinct clan could not. Naruto looked on at the wall that formerly housed the masks of the Uzumaki clan temple. Today was the last day in which this temple would still stand. As much as loved learning about the history of the Uzumaki temple, Naruto could tell that it was in dire need of repairs. The Chunin got a civilian engineer to come out and have a look at the structural integrity of the building, and unfortunately for his bank account, it was the worst possible outcome. The temple was barely staying up and one giant storm could spell the end for it. There were already pillars of wood which were cracked, water leaks in the ceiling and a termite infestation. As much as Naruto would have loved to keep the original building as a reminder of the history of his clan, he couldn't. He instead had two options. Option 1 was knock down the temple and build it again to look exactly like the original. Option 2 would also entail knocking down the temple, but it differed by using a new design. In the end, Naruto decided that he would like to build the new temple with a newer design. Getting up, Naruto did one final tour of the derelict temple and made sure that there was nothing left remaining that was worth keeping. All of the scrolls on Fuinjutsu which Naruto made a point to remember to read upon were removed, and now it was time. Katan, Goka Meshitsu, Fire Style, Great Fire Destruction, Naruto chanted out as he did all 7 hand seals. Naruto's knowledge and execution of the technique was still in its infancy. It was after all one of Madara Uchiha's signature fire jutsus after all. He was very grateful to his friend Sasuke for letting him look into the fire release techniques of the Uchiha clan. With them having set the standard on what a competent katan user should look like, Naruto couldn't think of a better place to learn about his element. The blue-eyed boy knew that it wasn't combat ready due to the amount of time it took to prepare the attack. Any competent ninja who was verging on Jonin or above would easily be able to take advantage of the time it took for Naruto to set it up. Give me some time though. Naruto smirked. Naruto watched as the temple was burnt down to the ground. It wasn't too long before the two colleagues that Naruto had just done a mission with, who happened to be decent Suiton users, quickly went through hand seals of their own. The nearby stream running on the right-hand side of the temple had water fly up into the air and douse the flames. "Thanks, guys. This means a lot," Naruto said before the two ninjas headed off home. Naruto knew he could do the rest in clearing the site with his rudimentary Doton knowledge. Tomorrow was the day in which the plans he had received from the architect were set in motion. Thankfully for Naruto, he actually had the funds to do it. The money he had saved from the sponsorship deal, the money he had persuaded Gato to part way with, and also the money he was getting back from his investment into Wave Country was getting put to good use. As much as Naruto's would have liked to not have help from anyone else, that was not the case. The restoration of the temple was dependent on the help of Jiraiya financing the deal. Despite Naruto having saved up an impressive $50,000 by leaving extremely frugally, it was still nowhere near enough to finance the $500,000 cost for the temple. In came the owner of the Ika franchise with an interest-free loan. The blonde didn't enjoy handouts, and despite his godfather offering to pay for everything, Naruto wouldn't accept it. The best he managed to haggle Jiraiya down to was only having to pay half of the loan, and that was interest-free with no time limit. For Naruto, this was a huge amount of money. For Toad Sannin, it was merely a drop in the ocean. He was a self-made multi-millionaire, with Naruto being his godson, he finally had someone to spend the money on that he felt was worth spending the money on. When he shelled out $10 million to buy a third of the Senju compound for Naruto, he saw it as a present for Naruto. The fact that he also wiped out all of Tsunade's debt didn't mean anything to Jiraiya. After all, she was the one who put herself in that position by gambling in the first place. In addition to Naruto getting a loan from his godfather, he also got to move into his godfather's apartment in the inner city, an area which had a much higher cost of living, free of charge. All he had to do was make sure the place was clean for the few times which Jiraiya came back to Konoha. XXX. It's good to be back home, isn't Ino-chan? Shoji questioned to his sister in all but blood. As they were representing the Fire Lord today, they were dressed in their best clothes. Shoji was wearing the battle armor of his clan. Ino was wearing a dark purple kimono with her clan symbol on the back. This wasn't uncommon for people who worked with her on a daily basis. What was different though was that her wasn't in a variation of a ponytail. Instead, it was let down and curled immaculately. She had definitely put effort into her appearance this morning. Definitely Choji-kun, I can't wait to see all of our family and friends. I hope Naruto isn't on any mission out of the village at the moment. The blonde beauty replied. Her teammate noticed that Naruto was mentioned separately there. I wonder if there is something there, or it is just her flirty personality. The duo followed down the path towards Konoha. They could make out the gate guards and the emotions intensified. They were finally home for the first time in 6 months. Waiting for the daimyo and by proxy Ino and Choji was interim leader of Konoha and the two advisors they had been briefed by. It was wishful thinking, Ino thought to herself. She couldn't wait until she saw Naruto again. She knew she looked damn good, and the blonde-haired girl couldn't wait to see the blushing mess that he would be rendered to when he saw her for the first time. Welcome to Konoha. I hope your trip was a pleasant one, Daimyo-sama? Danzo questioned as he gave a short bow. Hamura and Koharu did the same thing. Indeed, it was Danzo-san. I am eager to see the outcome of my visit to Konoha, Akira mentioned with a small grin on his face. It was not every day that you got to see a new Hokage being crowned. Danzo nodded. Yes, I doubt many trips would hold quite as much significance as what this one does. If you would oblige, I will take you to the Hokage Tower where we can discuss how tomorrow will be run. The fire daimyo agreed and then followed the veteran warhawk to the tower. Both Ino and Shoji couldn't help but wonder what it was that their boss was here for. They hadn't been briefed at all, so it was their best guess as to what it could be. The only thing I can think of is, given our situation, we may possibly be here for a new Hokage to be crowned. I wonder who it could be. Maybe Asuma-sensei? Ino thought to herself. Ino-san, Shoji-san, you are relieved from your duties for the time being. I will send a request for you when you need to return. Akira said, knowing that the two teenagers desperately wanted to see their respective families for the first time in 6 months. Both Ino and Choji couldn't help but grin and immediately used the body flicker jutsu to head off home. XXX. So Danzo-san, how has the interim position of Hokage been treating you? Akira said, once they arrived into the Hokage's office, silencing seals activated. It has been well, Daimyo-sama, however I don't Hiruzen who had to do it for multiple decades. Danzo definitely wasn't going to mention the fact that he didn't have the Jonin support as they knew of his past. Because of this, he had a difficult time being interim Hokage no less. I can imagine it would get tiring. I wonder how whoever out of the three boys gets the position will handle it. Akira probed, curious as to how the Chunin were going. Regardless, if they want the position, they will have to handle it. I suspect it will be harder for Konohamaru to handle though, as he is very hyperactive compared to the others. So I believe we shall get started then? I have 3 essays written, which one would you like to read first? Danzo questioned, holding out the papers in front of the man in front of him. Having heard a fair bit about Choji and Ino's teammate Naruto as well as meeting the boy himself, Akira decided to save that for later. He was curious as to the other competitors for the position of Hokage were like. What the position of Hokage entails and means to me, Sasuke Uchiha. As the daimyo read the paper in front of him, he was impressed with the quality. The punctuation and grammar was flawless. It was obvious that this candidate had a privileged upbringing. A few good points were raised in that since it was a military village, they needed to increase their strength to prevent future events like the Sand invasion from happening again. He was particularly impressed when Sasuke discussed the need for better internal security, using his own experiences during the Uchiha massacre to highlight how internal threats were more dangerous than external threats. On the other hand, he couldn't help but notice that there was not that much of a focus on protecting the civilians who made up the majority of the population in the village. The same people who provided the economy for the military village to run. Overall, Akira thought it was a good essay at 3,500 words. I get the impression Sasuke is quite driven to make Konoha the strongest village, but he doesn't mention anything about how he is going to do that. I agree with Sasuke in that Konoha is not in the position it was previously and we need to increase the effectiveness of our military. We will be surrounding whoever the choice may be with trusted and experienced advisors who will be able to guide Sasuke to making the correct decisions. Danzo diplomatically stated. He didn't want to state any personal preference. He wanted to see what Akira's was first before stating his own. I see, can you please hand me the next one? Why I would be the best Hokage just like my grandfather. Konohamaru Sarutobi. Is this all of it? The daimyo questioned with a frown on his face. Just from a glance, Akira estimated that there was only 500 or so words on the 2 pages. It left a lot to be desired. He seriously doubted that such a small word count was going to be enough to adequately cover the scope of the essay required. Like Sasuke, he talks about making Konoha more powerful, but there is no mention as to how he is going to go about this. He does specifically mention the will of fire and how he cares for the village, which is great. However, the amount of spelling mistakes and poor grammar make it hard to read. Yes, there is no questioning the loyalty and the love that Konohamaru has for the village. Seeing that Danzo wasn't going to mention anything more, Akira asked for the final paper, which was Naruto's. What is required from the next Hokage to provide stability and prosperity to the population of Konoha over the next decade? Naruto Uzumaki. I can already tell that this one is going to take longer than Sasuke's paper will take to read. Akira mentioned in an impressed tone of voice. If he had to guess, it was at least double, if not triple the size of Sasuke's report. It is in Konoha's best interest to not require such a heavy reliance on individual brilliance from its shinobi. The major reason why Konoha has been on the top of the food chain since the Warring Clan era is because it has had a higher level of excellence from the 1% of elite shinobi in comparison to other villages. As a village, we rely heavily on individual quality to win crucial battles whilst we preach teamwork. Why is this? This is because Konoha's education curriculum at the academy is flawed. It puts too much emphasis on ninja training to be done by shinobi clans and jonin sensei. This puts children who are either orphaned or come from a civilian background at a severe disadvantage. Whilst there is definitely merit to having a similar education to the civilian sector with ninja training thrown on top, I believe that it is paramount that there is a redevelopment of the curriculum to evenly split time to shinobi training and civilian training. Through my own and several others' anecdotal experience, there is more value to having multiple teachers teaching a subject that they specialize in, rather than having one teacher be who is a jack of all trades. This would mean for the skill sets that aren't related to ninja training, we would have civilian teachers teach the students. The university-level education taught in the civilian school system would be beneficial for academic achievement as well as bring a new perspective to the shinobi education system. Akira was blown away by the level of thought and detail that went into the passage that he had just read. It was clear to him that Naruto had thought about this significantly and also provided evidence to back up his opinions. It was one of the first topics that Naruto had talked about in his essay and he was eager to read more. There is also room for improvement in the organizational structure of Konoha. A lot of the administration and running is not running as efficiently as it could be. We have shinobi in positions that don't utilize their skill set. Why should a shinobi who doesn't have any experience in running a company's financials be placed in the budgeting section of the military? The position is one that has no requirement for the manipulation of chakra, so why are we employing someone in that role which could be better served out in the field? As a village, we provide training to shinobi on how to manage money, so why couldn't we collaborate with the Konoha University and add a few courses to the degree in the areas that would be required for them to work in military as a civilian? This would provide Konoha with the potential to have higher quality employees producing better results than if we limit our selection pool to only those who have access to their chakra who don't specialize in the area in which they are employed. If he was impressed beforehand, Akira was gobsmacked now. Having never seen something like this before, it was a groundbreaking suggestion that Naruto was making. It was no secret that in shinobi villages, there was always a disconnect between shinobi and civilians. Akira was a firm believer in a more collaborative populace would provide a better environment for the village. He agreed with Naruto in the thought some civilians could do some military jobs better than some ninjas. It was something that he would definitely support if Naruto became the Hokage. Akira then went on to read the rest of Naruto's 10,000-word report, which he was thoroughly impressed by. Well, there is definitely someone leading at the moment. So far, it is Naruto's position to lose. XXX. Admiring the efforts of labor was Naruto. He was impressed with the amount of work done on the first day. He could already see the foundations being laid and could easily picture the temple. He hoped that his mom was proud of what he was doing to restore the clan. Hearing a noise from behind, Naruto immediately turned around and spotted someone who he hadn't seen in 6 months. She was wearing a dark purple kimono which had white trimming. The blonde hair was even longer than what it used to be and it was out of its ponytail. Naruto couldn't help but stare at his teammate. He was not the only one doing that, as Ino was also taking in the appearance of her former teammate. Naruto, due to working on the temple all day, was only in a pair of compression shorts that stopped just above the knee. The Yamanaka easily noticed that Naruto had put on a considerable amount of muscle over the past 6 months. Naruto-kun, Ino said, the first to break the ice, having not spoken to one another since the fight. She noticed Naruto's eyes give their judgment on her body and it sent shivers down her spine. Ino-chan, you look stunning, he whispered as he slowly walked towards her. She quickly mirrored Naruto and they found themselves within touching distance. I'm sorry for the way I acted, I just didn't want to lose the closest thing I have ever had to a family. Tears started forming down the face of the proud clan heiress. And I never meant to say you wouldn't understand what it's like to leave family behind, Naruto. You're right. We are family. Naruto couldn't help it. The second he saw tears streaming down Ino's makeup-clad face, he enveloped his best female friend in a big hug. This only further served to let the tears come out at a rapid rate. She quickly wrapped her smaller arms around Naruto and returned the embrace, resting her head in the crook of his neck. Damn these tears. Ino whined as she broke from the hug, wiping her eyes. Naruto was confused for a second until Ino continued speaking. It's ruined all of my makeup. I probably look like one horrendous. Never had Naruto been so quick to reply. No. Ino-chan, you look amazing. I don't care if your makeup is running off of your face or not even on at all. To me, you will always be my Ino-chan. Naruto stared with intensity into the eyes of the blue-eyed girl. My Ino-chan, oh Naruto, that's a dangerous thing to say. That could get a girl to fall for you. The Yamanaka couldn't help but stare into the eyes of Naruto. She saw the fire and the passion in which he stated what he believed to be fact. A smirk appeared on her face. My Ino-chan ha Naruto-kun? Are you trying to insinuate something or what? She said with a smirk on her face. Spluttering, Naruto didn't know what to say as he realized the context his words could be taken. Fuck you, was the best that he could come up with. With all the blood that rushed to his face, it left little in his brain to think of a smartass response, something which he was normally known for. Wow, Naruto-kun, propositioning me with that already. And yet you haven't even wined and dined me? That's a bold strategy, Cotton, let's see how it pays off. This time laughter accompanied the blonde-haired girl. You witch. Yeah, but I'm your witch, aren't I, Naruto-kun? A flirty smile graced the face of Ino as she stared into the eyes of her former teammate. That completely went away and was replaced by butterflies in her stomach and her heart beating 1,000 times a second when Naruto stared into her eyes. The fact that he was still holding onto her body in a tight embrace only further served to emphasize this. I've missed you, Ino-chan. Naruto said with a small smile as he gazed into the blonde's eyes. The raw emotion was on show for all to see. I missed you too. Fuck me. I'm acting like Hinata. No one makes the sultry Ino like this. Ah, cat got your tongue? Is that a blush I see? The Uzumaki questioned, which only further served to make the blush even more pronounced. Screw you, Naruto-kun. Oh, you wish, Ino-chan, and don't think I haven't noticed your hands moving over my back. Well, can you blame me? You are almost freaking naked. And muscly, so very muscly. Thinking quickly, Ino put her foot behind Naruto's and pushed, causing the blonde-haired Chunin to fall on his back. Not resting, Ino pounced and pinned Naruto beneath her. Every emotion she saw in his eyes made her feel like the luckiest girl in the world. Naruto, wanting to get revenge, tipped the scales and flipped the two of them so that he was on top. He had also grabbed her hands and pinned them above her head. If Ino's heart rate wasn't high enough previously, it was definitely racing now. The distance between their faces was slowly closing. Without thinking, in a brief moment, Naruto pressed his lips onto Ino's in a chaste kiss. The ramifications of how this could potentially damage their friendship beyond repair was not even considered. When the kiss was broken, Ino looked into her former teammate's eyes. She noticed fear, attraction, but not a desire to say that he was sorry for his actions. Liking the feeling of having Naruto's lips pressed on hers, she returned the favor. It was the start of elongated makeout session before Naruto turned over and lay down on the ground next to Ino. He quickly pulled her to rest atop of his chest, not that she minded it one bit. So how was your time in the capital? Naruto questioned, eager to hear about what she had been up to. It's been great. Ino said animatedly. Both Choji and myself have improved a lot as shinobi. I bet we could give you a run for your money one-on-one. A small smirk appeared on her face as she finished her statement. What? You think I have just been sitting still doing nothing? I've also been improving as a shinobi. You don't get muscles like this without training hard. At this point, Naruto flexed his chest muscles, which Ino was lying on. Oh yeah, what about these muscles? Ino said as he propped herself up and flexed her biceps. She's really changed from the girl who hated the thought of being bulky. It's obvious she cares about her appearance but doesn't let that come in the way of her shinobi career. Can't see any since they are covered up by your kimono. Well, how about this then? Ino said as she rolled up the sleeves to the shoulders. Naruto could clearly see definition and mass in her arms and was impressed. "It's chilly," Ino called out, to which Naruto grinned. "Well, come back down here," he said whilst patting his chest. When Ino arrived on his chest, he immediately started channeling Ketan chakra into his body, heating it up. "What can I say? I am a natural furnace." "You definitely are my furnace," the Yamanaka girl said with a smile on her face as she snuggled into Naruto. As far as the Uzumaki was concerned, this was one of the best feelings he had ever experienced, and he didn't want it to end. XXX. As much as he didn't want the night to end, he knew that it had to. Today was a very significant day. He knew that he would need a minimum of 8 hours sleep to be at his fighting best. Every preparation was made for the 15-year-old. A new Hokage would be crowned today, and over the past half a year, Naruto had come to the decision that he wanted the title. He wanted to protect Konoha, he wanted to make sure that the village he called home prospered. He wanted the prestige that came with the title. He wanted the money that came with the role. Most importantly though, out of the 3 Chunin vying for the title, Naruto believed that he was the best person for the role. He honestly didn't feel as if he could respect Konohamaru despite the friendship they had formed over the past few months. Sasuke, he could respect a little bit more, but he wondered whether or not the Uchiha would put the village first or his own ambitions in killing Itachi. If he took the position, he doubted that Sasuke would be allowed to go out in search of the missing ninja. He couldn't wait for today to be over, regardless of the decision. He had spent the past 6 months of his life dedicating himself to this goal, and he wanted this to be over. Naruto wanted to progress onto bigger and better things. XXX. Sitting in the council chambers were both the civilian council and the representatives that made up the shinobi council. They had all of the evidence in front of them, and it was time to go through it and collate. At the end of this meeting, a new Hokage would be decided. All 3 candidates had put forth their case to become the next Hokage of Konoha. They had completed the written exam on Konoha, completed multiple missions leading up to today, performed in a mock fight in front of the Shinobi Council, and also had a politics exam with the daimyo, bartering on prices of missions. "So, let's get this started, shall we?" the daimyo mentioned, with the attention of everyone in the room solely on him. "I will let Shikaku-san, as the Jonin commander, proceed with the military evaluation." "Thank you, Daimyo-sama. I will begin by saying that all 3 of the Chunin have progressed immensely over the past 6 months. If the rank of Jonin was based solely on ninja ability, I would recommend all of them to attend the Jonin exam. Now, Konohamaru Sarutobi is an exemplary ninja in pure combat ability. His ability to use all fire elements proficiently is nothing short of amazing for someone his age. Being able to put Kakashi on the back foot in a ninjutsu battle is definitely impressive. He has the chakra reserves to power jutsu after jutsu. The only person who I have seen perform this better for all elements is his grandfather Sandaime-sama. His bojutsu with the staff is fairly proficient, but it is definitely at a lower level compared to the ninjutsu standard he set. As can be expected with a Jinchuriki, his ability in genjutsu is next to non-existent, but he has the ability to detect and dispel with little trouble. I agree with that assessment of Konohamaru, but feel the need to mention that his taijutsu skill is quite lacking. It is a weak point that would easily be found out. Hayashi commented, which Tsume also nodded towards. Also, he never showed any usage of the Kyuubi's chakra. Whilst that is a good sign for his abilities, it raises question marks as to how much he is able to control it. Inoichi added to the conversation. Shikaku nodded. True. We do have to take into consideration that Konohamaru is still a Chunin, and whilst his ninjutsu abilities are on the level of an elite Jonin, there will be areas where he is not as skilled in. Also, with this potential appointment being a temporary one for 1 year, there is time for Konohamaru to focus on other areas of shinobi combat. Sasuke has exemplary kenjutsu skills. His ninjutsu is also to a high standard in being able to use 2 elements proficiently. I was particularly impressed with his variations of the Chidori. Managing to hold his own in a kenjutsu spar with Yuga whilst getting hit by genjutsu from Kurenai is impressive. Sasuke is the all-round better shinobi. his weak points aren't as noticeable as Konohamaru's, although his strengths aren't as strong either. Chusa mentioned. Naruto has elite Jonin level taijutsu. Naruto was able to stand on the same level as Guy without weights but no gates opened. His ninjutsu is also impressive. Whilst his ability in the Doton element is lacking compared to Sasuke's ability with his secondary affinity, his control over the fire element is extraordinary. He also has Chunin level knowledge of Fuinjutsu, something which is quite hard to master. Having heard of all of the reports from Shikaku, the daimyo then took control of the meeting once more. So, if there was another invasion to happen tomorrow, which shinobi would you have the most confidence in their abilities? Hayashi was the first to speak up. Naruto. A few members of the shinobi council chuckled. It was no secret that with Hayashi being the head of the Hyuga clan, he had preferences to taijutsu users over ninjutsu. The combination of his bloodline and his ninjutsu is significant. The speed in which he fights it is something that is very hard to combat. There's no point having access to every ninjutsu ever created if you can't hit your opponent with it. Also, with the Ichibi gathering chakra over the stadium, his knowledge in Fuinjutsu. Konohamaru. His ability with ninjutsu is simply too hard to ignore. Being able to use all 5 elements is something remarkable for anyone, let alone someone his age. The Fuinjutsu knowledge isn't a requirement, however, as we can just get Jiraiya to handle that. Sum stated. Sasuke. Whilst Naruto is proficient in Fuinjutsu, which is not that common, I believe that Sasuke is the most well-rounded candidate on offer due to having high skills in close, medium and long range. Also, the Sharingan has the potential to control Bijou, which would be helpful with the Ichibi. They all have combat abilities required to be a Jonin, and due to their respective ages, there is more than enough time to work on improving their abilities. We may need to keep Jiraiya around for the next year a bit more frequently as a threat to other villages whilst we train the Hokage to be an S-class shinobi. Shikaku stated, essentially stating that the combat skills of all 3 was satisfactory for a Hokage. The daimyo nodded in earnest. Okay, so now we move on to the academic exam. I trust that everyone here has read the essays of the 3 candidates. Without seeing anyone interject, Akira continued speaking. Would anyone like to comment first? The CEO of one of Konoha's banks spoke up. It seems to me that Konohamaru spent all of his time focusing on the fighting aspect of being the Hokage whilst neglecting the academic portion and potentially others. In contrast to this, I was thoroughly impressed with the level of detail and thought that Naruto put into his. I am particularly interested in seeing some of his topics play out if he takes the position. With the amount of agreement on show from the civilian sector, Danzo smirked. It was clear to him that Naruto had won the favor of the civilian side of the council. Whilst they did not have much say in the choice of the Hokage, they had significant power in the approval ratings of the Hokage once they were in office. Most of the shinobi from his vantage point also held Naruto in high regard. To those who had yet to meet the Chunin, first impressions mattered. His essay on how to improve Konoha, regardless of if he was Hokage, showed that he cared about the interests of the village and had put much forethought into it. Yes, I must say that I was very impressed with the amount of effort that Naruto put into his essay. Sasuke's on the other hand was good, and Konohamaru's, well, the less said the better. I'm not too sure he fully realizes the amount of paperwork he will have to deal with if he gets the position. I believe he would be much better suited out in the field. Inoichi commented, to which several clan heads nodded in agreement. Akira took a bit of time before speaking. I see. Danzo-san, do you agree? Jiraiya had his attention solely on the Warhawk and was eager to hear what he had to say. Noticing that everyone had his eyes, he paused for a second to make sure he articulated himself the exact way he wanted to. He is definitely a talented shinobi and has the ability to perform great feats whilst on missions. His attention to detail is an area which has room for improvement, and whilst we can teach him some of the soft skills required to be a diplomat, there is a certain innate skill set that you either have or don't, which I don't believe that Konohamaru has. I can't say that I disagree with that, Jiraiya thought to himself. Jiraiya, could you please offer a few words about the leadership abilities of each candidate? Akira asked, to which the Toad Sannin nodded. Sasuke is a chunin of few words, but every word said has its merits. He isn't the type of person to give a rousing speech to boost morale. He does, however, boost morale simply by having the utmost confidence in his abilities as a ninja and being able to back that up. This is sometimes to his detriment, but overall he is a respectable leader. Konohamaru has the innate natural charisma that very few people have. He is able to encourage those around him and get them to perform at levels above what they normally can. Strategy, however, is not his strong point and could use a few lessons from Shikaku when planning in advance, but on the fly decision making, he is second to none. Overall, he is a good leader. Naruto is not afraid to differ to those around him who possess a higher skill set compared to his own if it means completing the mission. He currently has a 100% successful completion rate of missions. This is something that he is very proud about. He is able to rally higher performances out of his shinobi and able to give morale-boosting speeches, as seen during his display at the Chunin exams. Jiraiya said. Frankly, he thought that all three, given enough time, would become highly competent leaders. Ah yes. I remember Naruto-san leading his team to protect myself, my granddaughter and our entourage to the safe house of the Sarutobi compound. I was very impressed with his ability that day. He wasn't afraid to talk harshly to myself to ensure the completion of the mission. Danzo couldn't help but smirk as he watched everything play out. If there was one thing that he liked, it was everything going according to plan. It was clear to see that Naruto had the full support of the daimyo. The rest of the discussion as to who would become the next Hokage would take place over 4 hours. After the introduction was handled, they delved further into the specifics of each skill set that was getting graded. Akira propped the paper in front of him on the table as a smile appeared on his face. So after all that, we have agreed that Godaime Hokage of Konoha shall be Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, you are hereby summoned to the Hokage's office. The member of the ANBU stated as he answered the door. You have 10 minutes before you are required to be there. The ANBU officer mentioned before vanishing in a body flicker. The Chunin grinned. Today was the day that he was going to find out whether or not all of his hard work over the past 6 months. He was quietly confident in his abilities. Whilst Konohamaru may be slightly better in terms of combat, due to abusing the shadow clone learning technique, Naruto didn't believe that he had any form of diplomatic skills whatsoever. Sasuke, he thought that their combat skills were even, maybe favoring him slightly, and he also thought that he had slightly higher diplomatic skills. He hoped that the people making the decision could also see what he believed. Naruto hopped in the shower and then proceeded to make himself presentable. He was wearing a faded light red kimono top with black trimming. The Uzumaki clan symbol was proudly displayed on the back of Naruto's kimono. He finished off the look with a pair of black pants and black shinobi sandals. It was one of his better outfits and he was taking a calculated risk as he didn't want to ruin the clothes were expensive. With everything set, Naruto made his way over to the Hokage tower. XXX. When he arrived in the room, Naruto found himself greeted by several clan heads, Jiraiya, Danzo, and the daimyo. He quickly bowed to the distinguished guests. The blonde-haired ninja happened to notice that both Konohamaru and Sasuke were not in the room. He wasn't too sure if this was because they were late or something else. The heart rate of Naruto raised with the hope that it was because he was here to accept the position. With a smile on his face, Akira Tokugawa, who was standing beside the Hokage's desk, started the conversation. Naruto Uzumaki, it is with great pleasure that I am able to offer you the position of Godaime Hokage of Konoha. Akira said a few things after that, but to be completely honest, it wasn't something that Naruto paid attention to. Ever since hearing that his father was the former Hokage of Konoha, the desire to become the next one drove Naruto along with the promise of riches. To hear that he was getting the offer was something that was surreal and he struggled to comprehend all of it. It was as if all of his goals in life were coming true. He wanted to become a powerful ninja and all of the attention that comes along with that. He wanted to gain wealth to the point where he could live his life however he wanted. With the promotion to the rank of Hokage, everything that he ever wanted was so close within reach. I accept. That is great, Naruto-san. If you would please overlook this contract and then sign it, We will then proceed with the inauguration process," the daimyo stated, ushering Naruto to the Hokage desk. Naruto didn't waste much time sitting down in the desk which he took in. He stared out the window at the village and suddenly, fear built up inside him. It was only now that he was being tasked with 1 million people's lives were suddenly under his protection. He had the responsibility to ensure that 1 million people not only survived but also prospered. Turning around, Naruto looked into the eyes of the two people crucial for his development as a shinobi, being Jiraiya and Danzo. The Chunin saw the looks of pride in Jiraiya's eyes and also the confidence in Danzo's. Naruto could tell that they fully believed that he was the best person for the job. He couldn't let them down. He couldn't let Ino and the rest of Team 10 down. He couldn't let Konoha and the memory of his parents down. Renewed vigor coursed through Naruto as he now looked down at the legally binding document. The first things that he noticed was that there was no annual leave or sick leave. You were expected to fulfill the obligations of your position every minute of every day. There were no off days. The $500,000 a year salary made up for it though. The sight of that made Naruto's eyes nearly bug out of his head. It was a significant step up. Sure, he knew that Jiraiya had spent 10 million to buy the new Uzumaki compound off of the Sinjas, but that was his godfather's money, not his. This, however, was entirely his, and it was a reward for all of the hard work that he had put in over the years. That wasn't even the best bit. Naruto read that this was a probation period contract. It was for a year, and if his performances weren't up to the level required, Konoha would be able to remove him from his position and fill it with someone else. Once it became official and he was no longer on a probationary period, his salary would rise by 5% each year. After finishing reading the rest of the contract in explicit detail, Naruto picked up the pen beside the paper. Before he started signing the paper, Jiraiya spoke up. "Naruto, before you sign that, let me speak for a second." Seeing that he had his godson's attention, Jiraiya continued. "If you would like, you can sign the paper as Naruto Namikaze and change your name over. When Konoha hears about it, it will help win over a few people." Naruto thought about it. "Thanks Jiraiya-sensei, I don't think I will, however though. I have had the surname Uzumaki throughout my life and it has served me well, and I want to restore the name of prestige of my clan rather than start a new one. The advice on name-dropping Hudad is a good idea, and I will use that in my inauguration speech to help win over a few of the harder people." With that said, Naruto signed the contract as Naruto Uzumaki. It was now official, the new Godaime Hokage of Konoha was Naruto Uzumaki. XXX. Within moments of Naruto being appointed the Hokage of Konoha, he was already getting down to business. The first matter of discussion was the reformation of the Ichibi. It was scheduled to happen in the anywhere 6 months to 18 months, and it appeared as if it was going to take place right above the Colosseum. There wasn't a specific date, but it was believed it would happen 1 year after the date of Gaara's death. "Jiraiya-sensei, you will need to be around that day as we will seal it into a shinobi. Currently our military position is significantly weakened due to the invasion, and the alternative of sealing the bijou into a vase or something like that seems like a waste." "Gotcha, kiddo. I can do that fairly easily. Now who do you plan on sealing it in?" Naruto thought on it for a moment. "I believe that it is best that the child comes from a ninja family. That way, they can help provide a stable environment and notice chakra-related issues a lot earlier than a civilian family could. From what I have read, normally the person chosen to be a Jinchuriki is related the reigning Kage's family to ensure loyalty to the village, but is a problem since I have no remaining family." Naruto pondered, yet to have thought of a solution. "If I may suggest, Hokage-sama, my grandson is 2 years away from graduating from the academy. He is a loyal shinobi like myself and preaches how much he desires to protect Konoha. You could seal the bijou into him and then become his sensei when he graduates the academy to ensure loyalty to the village." Danzo, ever the opportunist, said after spotting an opening. After all, making plays after Naruto got the role was the whole reason why he did this in the first place. Balking at this idea, Jiraiya quickly spoke up. "Hang on a second there, there are plenty of other candidates that are loyal to the village and come from shinobi backgrounds. Also, emotions are a critical part, the ability to gain access and control the chakra of the tailed beast inside them. Jiraiya had to be careful. Naruto still held affection for one of his senseis and he didn't want to force an ultimatum. He couldn't let Naruto become the puppet of Danzo. Naruto noticed the barb thrown in about emotions but chose to ignore it. What about his age? I have heard that there are issues, the older the recipient of the demon is. How can we get around that? The newly minted Hokage questioned, trying to cover all bases. Internally, Danzo grinned. He was glad that Naruto didn't immediately dismiss the idea. That fact that he was considering it was a foot in the door. Tsunade-san has been away from the village for over a decade, doing who knows what. Hiruzen gave her a free pass to leave the village. She never formally retired as a shinobi, so she is effectively a rogue ninja. If she were to come back to the village, she would greatly help with the creation of a new Jinchuriki. Also, with you becoming the new Hokage, a lot of the world is going to be questioning how strong you are. A fourth shinobi world war will potentially break out. We don't have the luxury of putting the bijou into an infant, as they could be a serious liability. Jiraiya honestly couldn't say anything in defense of his former teammate. He knew that Sarutobi-sensei had been extremely lenient over Tsunade, and now with Naruto in charge who had no emotional connection to the lady, it was time for her to face the music of her decisions. He also agreed fully with Danzo that making Naruto the Hokage of Konoha would shake up the elemental nations, and he wasn't sure how the world was going to react. I see. Regardless of whatever happens in regards to the decision of the Jinchuriki situation, I am ordering Tsunade to come back to Konoha. Jiraiya-sensei, I am giving you full blessing for you to use whatever means necessary to bring her back to Konoha. If need be, use force. You are the best person for the job. Alright Gaki, this should be interesting, hee. She ain't going to like that. Naruto merely shrugged his shoulders. I don't care. Bring her to me then and I will have a chat with her. Also, Danzo-sensei, can you please provide a report of current academy students that fit the criteria from all ages and state the pros and cons for becoming a Jinchuriki? It was clear to those in the room that Naruto was taking this with the utmost earnestness. As you command, Hokage-sama. XXX. When he heard the news that he was not going to be selected to become the Hokage, Sasuke strangely enough wasn't all that bothered by it. If he was completely honest with himself, he saw the position of Hokage as a pretty bad one. For the goals that he needed to accomplish in life, holding the title of Hokage went against them. All he ever saw of the Sandaime Hokage was him sitting behind his desk and doing paperwork. If he became the Hokage, then it was pretty much certain that he would have to do the same thing. Whilst he was busy with paperwork, Itachi was out there getting stronger. He couldn't be stuck behind a desk all day. Being a candidate for the role of Hokage definitely had some benefits though. If Sasuke was completely honest with himself, if it wasn't for being selected for this 6 months ago, he would have taken up the offer of the Sound Ninjas in defecting to Orochimaru in the Sound Village. He didn't though, and he was glad that he hadn't. He didn't want to become like Itachi and be a missing ninja. Sasuke wanted to make the Uchiha clan return to their former glory. And it was all thanks to the amount of hard work he had put in over the past 6 months. Compared to what had happened in the previous 6 months before the Chunin exams, which he had learned pretty much nothing, it was quite the opposite for the young Uchiha clan heir. He had gone from low Chunin Taijutsu, low to mid Chunin Ninjutsu, Genin Genjutsu, and no Kenjutsu whatsoever to high Chunin Taijutsu, low Jonin Ninjutsu, high Chunin Genjutsu and high Chunin, bordering on Jonin level Kenjutsu. He had to thank the multitude of senseis over the recent months, as he knew that if it wasn't for them, he would be nowhere near as strong as what he was now. Despite this, there was still much more room for improvement as far as the Uchiha Special Jonin was concerned. Yes, despite not getting the rank of Hokage from being a candidate, he did get a promotion to Jonin. He was even informed that if he kept a similar rate of progress over the next 6 months again, he would become a fully fledged Jonin, something which Itachi never managed to accomplish. Sure, he He may have been skilled enough to take the exam and pass with flying colors, but it was something he never did as he was in the ANBU. It would be a source of pride for Sasuke if was able to do something that Itachi couldn't. Sure, he was still a little bit salty over Naruto getting the position and not him, but he didn't mind it all that much. Sasuke would have turned down the position after much thought. It was the reason why he didn't put that much effort into the diplomatic side of the process. The special Jonin was grateful that it was Naruto and not Konohamaru that had received the position. XXX. Whereas Sasuke was sitting down calmly taking the news that he wasn't going to become the Hokage, Konohamaru was on the other end of the spectrum. He was beyond frustrated at what he believed to be the wrong decision. Naruto isn't the best person to lead Konoha into the future. I am. He doesn't live and breathe the village like I do. All he cares about is money. He hasn't had to go through any hardships like I have had with the Kyuubi. He doesn't deserve it like I do. I'm even the grandson of the previous Hokage. If anyone was going to become the Hokage, it should have been me. As the internal monologue of Konohamaru went on, he went through jutsu after jutsu in the training ground. What he didn't notice was that during this time, he had already started accessing the Kyuubi's chakra. Every jutsu that he was creating was becoming that much more potent. Konohamaru. You're accessing the Kyuubi's chakra. Snap out of it. Jiraiya mentioned, grabbing the attention of the Sarutobi boy. He immediately turned around, happy to find someone that he could vent to about this whole situation. Why did I get the role? My ninjutsu is the best out of the three of us. I have the Kyuubi backing me and I'm probably the strongest fighter. Konohamaru complained. Not that he had a fight with either Sasuke or Naruto going all out recently. Jiraiya for his part was glad to see the change in color in Konohamaru's eyes. That is part of the reason why you didn't get the role, Gaki. The position of Hokage is more than just being a ninjutsu juggernaut. You spent all your time over the past 6 months learning more ninjutsu and becoming a stronger fighter, that you didn't pay much thought to the diplomatic side of being the Hokage. Newsflash, kiddo, they are both just as important as one another, something that you should have picked up on given that Sarutobi-sensei was your grandfather. I get that you need to be good at politics to become the Hokage, but those are skills that you can learn on the job. You can't protect your village if you aren't strong enough. Konohamaru replied back, agitated. Protecting the village isn't one shinobi's responsibility, brat. You can't be expected to protect the whole entire village by yourself, especially at this age. Just think, brat, you have been out of the academy only for 1 year. You, Naruto or Sasuke are nowhere near the level when you can come close to doing what you just talked about. I have 35 years of training on top of you and I am still not at the point where I could single-handedly protect the village. That kind of sobered up Konohamaru. Jiraiya continued on. Look, Konohamaru, even if Naruto doesn't work out as the Hokage, he is initially going to be on a temporary contract for the position, meaning that if he isn't good enough in 1 year's time, he will be removed from the role and it will be up for grabs again. What the Toad Sannin didn't say was that he thought that Naruto was going to do a fine job and not get removed from the position. Hearing this, it definitely lifted the spirits of the special Jonin. Sarutobi Konohamaru perked up. Really? Alright then, Arrow-Sennin, what do you think I need to improve on the most to make sure that if Naruto screws up, I am able to take his place? Annoyed at the Arrow-Sennin remark, Jiraiya spoke up. Well, to be honest, the areas that you excel greater than what either Naruto or Sasuke do in their respective areas. As this filtered into his ears, Konohamaru couldn't help but smirk. That quickly changed, however, as Jiraiya continued speaking. However, your weaknesses are far greater than those of Naruto or Sasuke, relative to the areas that you are weak in. You need to improve your taijutsu a fair bit, your genjutsu a large amount, and also branch out into other areas, like say Fuinjutsu, especially since you are a Jinchuriki. The special Jonin didn't like hearing that. The reason why he didn't train those as much was because he wasn't as good at those disciplines. They didn't come as naturally to him as ninjutsu did. The special Jonin also knew that if he mentioned this to his sensei, he would come off across as a petulant child. In addition, you drastically need to work on your diplomatic skills. I mean, come on, that 500-word essay that you wrote was nothing. Naruto wrote a 10,000-word one. Konohamaru's face morphed into a shocked expression when he heard this. But I hate writing and all that crap. It was at this point that Konohamaru had a realization. He had only ever been doing the fun stuff when it came to training to become the Hokage. He had never done the tasks that weren't fun or easy. I've got to take this seriously. There had to be things that Gramps hated doing that he knew that he had to do. With renewed vigor, Konohamaru made a pact with himself that he was going to train in the areas that he wasn't good at. Thanks Jiraiya-sensei, I have a lot to think about. Konohamaru replied before using the body flicker jutsu. XXX. After his first official day as the Hokage, Naruto was finally able to leave work and go home and enjoy himself. With the inauguration happening tomorrow, there were 3 people he wanted to talk to this about before it was announced to the public. After organizing it with Chusa Akimichi, Naruto was able to book one of the private rooms in one of their famous restaurants, equipped with silencing seals, allowing for an intimate party. Naruto was the first to arrive, dressed in a collared dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms and wearing a pair of light denim jeans, with a pair of leather shoes. The first person who arrived was his sensei Asuma Sarutobi. He was wearing a similar clothes to Naruto, although he was wearing a collarless shirt. Hey sensei, how's it going? I have been fairly busy over the past few days, so I haven't seen you as much as I would have liked. Naruto said with a bit of a frown. It's all good, kid. If my hunch is correct, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Asuma said with a smirk on his face. Although officially he didn't know the result, he was confident in his student that he would be able to take the job. After all, it said a lot about himself if he was the one who taught the Hokage. Yeah, things are going to be quite hectic for me from now on. The cool thing now though is that I get to be your boss and not the other way round. The blonde-haired teenager said with a smirk on his face. As if I would ever listen to you. Come here, you midget. Asuma said before giving a hug to his student. He was immensely proud for what Naruto had accomplished. Thanks. I never could have achieved any of this if it wasn't for your help, Asuma-sensei. If you didn't take a chance on me when a spot became available on your team, I doubt that I would have been able to even make the rank of Chunin, let alone what has happened over the past few months without your guidance and support. Naruto earnestly stated. Asuma smiled. I merely gave you the opportunity, Naruto. You grasped it with both hands and made it your bitch. I'm proud of you. Before the two could go on, 2 more people arrived into the booth. Ino Yamanaka walked by as if she owned the place, her confidence was that high. There was a bright smile on her face, which Naruto hoped was because of the night before. She was wearing a strapless satin red dress that flared out at the waist. The blonde who had hair down, much like last night, wore a pair of matching red heels. Naruto couldn't keep his eyes off Ino, Ino couldn't keep her eyes of Naruto. Both Choji and Asuma, who were looking on, knew that something had definitely happened between the 2 former teammates, they just didn't know what. Alright, before Naruto gets to talk about a few things, there's something that I want to say. Sit down, you guys. Naruto quickly said hello to Choji and apologized for what happened 6 months ago before they left for the capital as he heard Asuma speak. As they sat down, Choji and Asuma sat on one side of the booth whilst Naruto and Ino sat on the other side, something which they didn't mind at all. Ino even went so far as to grab a hold of Naruto's hand under the table. The blonde-haired boy immediately squeezed back. Now, due to the hectic events of the Chunin exams, I never got to do something that I planned on doing. As the sensei of the former Team 10 said this, he pulled out 3 small boxes. These earrings are all the exact same. They symbolize the fact that no matter what happens, you will always have a part of the team inside of you and that you are now officially, in the eyes of Konoha, adults. Thank you, Asuma-sensei. Choji mentioned with a big grin on his face. He immediately put the earrings in his pocket, making sure that he didn't lose them. Naruto did much the same thing. Ino on the other hand started changing them at the table, given that she was the only one who currently had her ears pierced. Naruto was the next one to speak up. Now there's a reason why I booked this room with the silencing seals instead of just a regular room. This got the attention of both Choji and Ino. They wanted to know what was so important. Ino especially as the self-appointed gossip queen of Konoha. So tomorrow I'm going to be revealing what I say tonight to the public, but I thought that it would be better to tell you guys first. Spit it out already. Ino grumbled, her patience for hearing gossip was very tiny. Naruto smirked as he looked at his friend. He wasn't sure what to call her as they didn't really talk about it at all last night. Well, I guess I'll get on with it then, Naruto said as he saw the Choji hanging off the edge of his seat. I found out who my parents were. Stunned silence came from his two former teammates. They knew that this was a sensitive topic for Naruto. They hoped it was positive. How did it go? Ino was the first person to ask, gripping Naruto's hand under the table. He paused for a second and stared into her eyes and smiled. He loved the fact that she really cared about him. It went well. I found out that they both died in the Kyuubi attack and gave their lives to protect the village. My mother's name is Kushina Uzumaki, which is where I got my last name from, as they didn't want me to have to suffer from my father's enemies coming after me. I'm sorry to hear that they have passed away, Naruto. Choji, knowing how hard death was to deal with. The blonde-haired teenager smiled. It's okay, Choji, I know that if they were here, they would be proud of the person I became. My father, well, you all know him as the guy with the face on the rock, Naruto said with a sheepish grin on his face. He didn't know how else to say it without it coming across as pompous. It took half a second for Ino to realize what he meant. Oh my god. I mean, I always thought you looked similar, but I never thought that that was because you're his son. Now that I know the relation, I can't believe that I didn't see it sooner. As Ino was saying this, Choji also realized who it was that Naruto was referring to. Wow, so your father is the fourth Hokage. I didn't expect that. Choji replied, not doubting for a second if what Naruto was saying was the truth. Yeah, I was pretty shocked when I found out. As it turns out, Kakashi-sensei was the one who told me. Both Ino and Choji knew how much Naruto wasn't a fan of Kakashi, so it just went to show how much had changed. The whole reason why he failed me was because he didn't want to train me, as everyone that has ever been close to him has died. He didn't want his sensei's son to also suffer from the same fate. Frankly, I am pretty glad that he did that. If it wasn't for that decision, I wouldn't have ended up on Team 10 and met you guys. You guys have changed my life for the better, Naruto said, wearing his heart on his sleeve. Congratulations, Naruto, Ino said whilst giving Naruto a hug from the side. He smiled and immediately returned it. He didn't want to let go. Yeah, so if you think that is surprising, the new news that came about this morning will surprise you even more, Naruto boldly claimed. Both Choji and Ino, who were listening on, were surprised. Sure, they believed Naruto, but they doubted that something could be as shocking as that. Boy, were they wrong. Naruto spoke up. Straight after the Chunin exams, they needed to decide on who the Hokage was going to be. In the end, they couldn't decide on who it was going to be. That's why Danzo was the interim leader as the current ANBU commander. They made the decision that they would do a training program for 3 individuals, and by the end of it, one of them would become the Hokage. Despite where Naruto was leading the conversation, Ino refused to believe it. There was no way that the person who was a genin 7 months ago was now going to become the Hokage. Choji was in the same boat. He seriously doubted that Naruto was the new Hokage of Konoha. I was one of the people in the competition thanks to my efforts in the Chunin exams, killing the former Jinchuriki of the Ichibi. I did well in all of the tests, and officially, as of last night, I am the Godaime Hokage of Konoha. Looks of disbelief quickly filtered onto the faces of Ino and Choji. They couldn't believe their teammate who they doubted became a Jonin and managed to jump straight from Chunin to Kage. Come on, Naruto, don't bullshit with us. There's no way that you could have become the Hokage. I mean, wouldn't they pick Asuma-sensei before you? Ino questioned, to which Choji nodded. Whilst he knew that there would be skepticism from people, Naruto was a bit miffed that they believe him. I'm serious, you can even ask Asuma-sensei about this. I was appointed the Hokage this morning and there will be a coronation tomorrow morning. Is he really telling the truth, Asuma-sensei? Choji questioned. If it was true, he would be extremely happy, but it just seems surreal that Naruto was going to become the most powerful man in Konoha. Yes, Choji, Naruto will be sworn in tomorrow as the Godaime Hokage of Konoha. Asuma said whilst nodding. Even he found it a bit surreal. Wow, congratulations then, Naruto. I reckon you will be a great Kage. With a smile on his face, Choji offered a fist bump which Naruto readily returned. Thanks, Choji, that really means a lot to me. Naruto gratefully said. It is still so hard to wrap my head around you being the most powerful man in Konoha. Congratulations though, Naruto, you have put in heaps of effort and you deserve every reward you get for it. Ino said before giving her blonde teammate yet another hug. This one was slightly longer than the last one. She really was proud of Naruto and all of his accomplishments. There was one thing about Naruto becoming the Hokage of Konoha that didn't sit right with Ino, and that was that Naruto was set to become the most eligible bachelor in the village. She didn't like the sound of that. XXX. It finally dawned on Naruto as he was speaking about it with his teammates, that he was the Hokage of Konoha. He had so many lives in his hands. Are you nervous about being the Hokage? Ino quietly asked. Much like the night before, the two of them ended up cuddling on the green grass that made up the Uzumaki compound. I'm terrified. Naruto freely admitted in the privacy of his home. I'm scared that every single minor mistake that I make is one that can lead to a family being ripped apart. For what it's worth, Naruto, I truly believe that you will be a great Hokage. I think you care about those around you a lot in the village. I know that you are strong and a great shinobi, you're smart and you have a way with words would make a politician envy you. I know you will be amazing in the role, Hokage-sama. Ino said with a massive smile on her face. She doubted that she could ever be happier than what she was in this point in time. Staring into piercing blue eyes, Naruto melted. He didn't know what to say that would be equivalent to what Ino just said. With a few choice words, she got rid of all of his fears, at least for the moment, and filled him with the utmost confidence. So he settled on kissing her again. To be honest, he didn't really need a reason like the one he just had to kiss Ino. Unlike the kisses from the night before, Ino noticed when Naruto opened his mouth slightly and grabbed onto his bottom and lightly bit on it before pulling it towards herself. MMHH, Naruto moaned into Ino's mouth, causing the platinum blonde to smirk, her teeth holding Naruto's bottom lip. Those magazines she read were definitely paying off. The newly minted Hokage had also heard about tongue kissing. He pushed his tongue into Ino's mouth as far as he could, not fully sure what to do. Ino quickly broke off the kiss. Next time don't try and stick your tongue down the back of my throat. It's like you're trying to suffocate me. Embarrassed at his lack of apparent kissing skills, Naruto tried to focus on the positives whilst remembering that tidbit for the future. Next time? Naruto questioned with an eager expression on his face. How about now? The boy questioned before placing his hand on the back of Ino's neck, underneath her hair. When he did this, Naruto essentially turned Ino into putty. There were a few more next times. Each time, both parties getting bolder in the roaming of hands across bodies. It's getting chilly, Naruto-kun. I may need to get a jumper. Ino said, not wanting to make the night end. She was fairly confident that she would have to go back to the capital tomorrow, and with Naruto being the Hokage, she doubted that he would have much time to see her. I have another idea. Naruto said before he grabbed Ino in an embrace and started channeling fire chakra all throughout his body. He quickly heated up and then did the same thing to Ino's bare skin. Oh boy, man, this is good. I could definitely get used to this. As the Yamanaka clan heiress said this, she snuggled further into Naruto, which she did not mind one bit. Sobering herself up, Ino rested on Naruto's chest, one which she very much liked, and got serious. Hesitantly, Ino spoke up, afraid of the next conversation but knowing that they had to have it. Hey Naruto, what are we? Are we boyfriend and girlfriend? I mean, I am really happy spending time with you like this, but we are going to be going away from each other for a long time. The earliest I can come back to Konoha on a permanent basis is in a year and a half. A frown appeared on Naruto's face. Yeah, as much as I would like to, I don't know how we could maintain a boyfriend-girlfriend situation with all that time and space away from one another. Plus, with me being a Hokage, I won't have the time to really focus on anything but work for at least the next year. Ino released a sigh of relief. She was glad that they were both on the same page. She would have hated if Naruto wanted a relationship when she wasn't in the position to commit to one. The fact that they were both still teenagers was not lost on either one. They had tons of time before even thinking about a relationship. Maybe we should just not commit to anything, and if either one of us finds someone that we want to date during the meantime, we are free to engage in that? And if when I come back to Konoha permanently and both of us are single, we can think about it then? Hearing what Ino had to say, Naruto agreed. It wasn't fair on either one of them to try and force a relationship long distance. Yeah, and if we see each other during the time when you are in the capital, then anything is up for grabs. Naruto said with a smirk on his face before re-engaging Ino into a searing kiss, happy with the outcome they agreed on.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.